everyone. Welcome back to the Convos with Anita Santiago podcast. I am your host, Anita Santiago. Please like, review, share, and subscribe to the podcast on all the social media platforms. Also, if you want to reach out to me directly, you can reach me at convoscws@gmail.com. Today's topic is back from the brink, overcoming life's toughest challenges. This is an extension in a way of the topic that I did last time, which was you're not okay. It's okay. And in that episode, I talked about how the downtimes in life are part of a natural cycle of emotional ups and downs that everyone experiences and how we can better navigate those times. But how do you come back from something that takes you completely to the edge? Life is not always smooth and easy. There are times, for some of us, I can't speak for everybody, for some of us, where we hit rock bottom. There seems to be no way of overcoming it. This could be financial ruin, eviction, severe illness, the loss of a very meaningful relationship in your life, or other things that happen. And in this economy today, with so much going on, with prices skyrocketing and people just struggling to make ends meet, being at the brink is not a hard concept. So, what do we do and how do we navigate this? Well, the first thing we want to recognize is that we are very resilient. Human beings are very resilient, and we have a capacity not just to survive devastating, difficult situations, but to also learn and grow from them. So, being at the brink is not a good feeling, but fundamentally, when you think about it, you've successfully navigated every difficult situation that you've had in your life. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the resiliency that we have. Let's talk about how we get through the aftermath. So I want you to think back. Think back to the most devastating thing that you can think of that's happened to you, where life just threw you a curveball out of nowhere that you may not have expected. Sometimes that might look like the sudden loss of a job that you've invested 10, 20, 15 years in, and all of a sudden you come in and you have an email saying your services are no longer needed. In that circumstance, you might be left saying, oh my gosh, I've invested all this time, energy, and effort into this career, into this company. And now you're questioning your value and your worth because they pulled the rug from under you. Now that's put you in a terrible financial situation. And we know there's not a lot of safety net or help out here. Can be very, very devastating. Other experiences could include a diagnosis that is very, very scary. Many people are dealing with many, many severe and chronic illnesses. And receiving a diagnosis, especially one that could be very devastating, forces you to confront a lot about life. The fact that time is finite and we may not have as much time as we think we have. And did I live the way that I wanted to? And what do I do? How do I make it through this? Another really tough situation, especially for, I don't know, the 50 plus crowd. Many people are watching a slow, agonizing unwinding of their relationships. Maybe you've put in 20, 25 years, 35 years, and now all of a sudden your relationship is unraveling and it's not really clear what happened. The person that you invested in and plan to spend so much time with, it's very difficult to even get along. What do you do? That can leave people questioning um, a lot of things, and it can be an identity crisis. Just think, if a person is 60 years old and they've been married for 30 years and their marriage is unraveling, you've been married over half of your adult life. That's what you know. You know what that feels like. You know what that is. To think of not being married can be distressing because why? Over half of your life, you've had this particular identity. The same thing with the job example I used. You've been on your job long, long time, and now they say, well, your position is no longer needed and you're not here. And maybe you were an accountant, maybe you were a nurse, or maybe you were a welder or something. And now all of a sudden, you're not that thing anymore. So you can really have a full blown identity crisis because the thing that you are comfortable being, you may not be anymore. I mentioned the economy earlier and how prices are skyrocketing and people are literally one paycheck from disaster. For people who've experienced financial devastation for whatever reason, job layoff or divorce or some other, or medical bills or medical situations, this can be very distressing. I saw a story on social media last week where a mother had, you know, poured out so much into her son's medical care that she used all the financial resources that she had, and she still had financial difficulties. So these experiences are not just tough. These are life altering types of experiences. These are experiences that can shake you to your core. And how do you navigate that? Literally, one of my favorite sayings is, I got nine toes over the edge and I'm hanging on by my baby toe. I mean, really and truly, being in these types of situations can cause you to question so much. And often those around us are not really in a position to necessarily help us when we're going through something. People can give you an emotional support and companionship when you get a devastating diagnosis. They can't go through those procedures and surgeries for you. People can give you support when your marriage is unraveling, but they can't fix it for you. So, understandably, there are times where we hit a rough patch in life, and then there are times that we can be completely devastated by what we're experiencing. Now, with that being said, um, the human spirit is incredibly resilient. Um, there are so many stories. All you have to do is go on social media about people who have overcome incredible odds, incredible things, and went on to have full lives. I saw Facebook reel about a guy that was paralyzed and he was determined to walk. And I mean, it was a lot of working with him and a lot of therapy. And he got to the point where he could walk with supports. Incredibly resilient story. Whereas I don't know why he was paralyzed. I don't know what happened. I know that he had something happened to him. So he wasn't paralyzed. Something happened to him. They didn't say what it was. And then this story of resilience of how he fought back from that. Um, there are many, many other stories. People who have experienced financial ruin and gone on to be very successful entrepreneurs, business people, role models and examples. So just because you have an experience that takes you to the brink doesn't mean that you can't get through it. So, even though everybody's journey is different, I think if we kind of contemplate, there are some themes that emerge that say, okay, so people who experience these life altering, earth shaking, soul shaking situations, how do they move forward? Well, let's look at a couple of these themes that come into play with people who have done that. So, one important step in coming back from the brink is understanding the pain and grief around the situation that you're experiencing. Understanding whether you're feeling pain, grief, anger, sadness, all of the above, and don't hide it. If your if your health is declining and you've got a devastating diagnosis, I mean, you may not want to talk about that to everyone you come across, but acknowledge that that's what you're dealing with. Be upfront with yourself first, um, and others too. And whether you're dealing with the loss of a relationship, the illness, the loss of identity or identity crisis, allowing yourself to name those emotions, acknowledge those emotions, and freely express those emotions is really, really important. Another theme that emerges for people who have come back from the brink is their support system. I cannot emphasize to you enough what a robust support system can do for you individually. Quality over quantity always. You don't have to have 100 people in your support system, but you do have to have people that know how to properly support you by allowing you to feel what you feel and not trying to change or fix you. So if you're in a 30-year marriage that's unraveling and it can't be reconciled, that support system would say to that individual, see you, I can understand why this hurts. This is really this is really tough, but not try to say, oh, all you need to do is get your paperwork and you could be out there on Bumble or Tinder or whatever the apps are, and you'll be fine because you'll meet someone. Now, a good support system is going to acknowledge and see what you feel, and they're going to give you space and support you through that while you're feeling that. In the last episode I did, it's okay, you're not okay, and it's okay. I talked about how sharing and expressing what you feel to others is very important. Well, a good support system will see and hear and validate your feelings and walk side by side with you as you process all these emotions. Having people in your corner that offer you strong support, reasonable advice, or just listen without judgment can make a tremendous difference as you're at the brink, coming back from the brink, coming back from a very significant experience in your life. And in addition to that, having a good support system kind of fights that feeling that you're going through it alone. They may not be going through what you're going through, but you definitely know that you're not alone. So, those are a couple of themes that emerge. Something else that's really important for coming back from the brink is practical strategies as you navigate the challenge. What I mean by that is that, let's take the example of financial devastation. A person has $70,000 in credit card debt, $30,000 in medical debt, and they just lost their job with no severance package or anything. What possibly could that person do in that circumstance? There are practical solutions that they can explore. It doesn't necessarily mean that it will fix the problem, but by actively working on it, my theory is that that person would be led to resources that eventually are going to help. So in this example that I'm using, uh, this person could take advantage of financial counseling programs, um, budgeting programs, looking at, other opportunities, maybe opening a business, for example, if they have a skill set that works well with that. Um, and even though there's no guarantee that any particular strategy would solve the issue of financial difficulty the person is having, they're going to get a lot of resources and they're going to be led to other resources and eventually get to something that will probably be helpful. Um, for people with diagnosis of different illnesses, sometimes getting in a group or getting around others who are dealing with that illness and allowing yourself to contribute in different areas can be very helpful. What do I mean? So let's say, for example, a person has a devastating lung diagnosis. Well, the American Lung Society um, might have opportunities where that person can volunteer and be in groups and help others with that same illness, giving them a chance to not only um, help others in that same situation, but maybe understanding their illness a little bit better by being around experts and doctors and people who are dedicated to this particular thing. So, again, being in proximity of people that understand and get the diagnosis that that person has and being able to participate in maybe helping others could be a practical strategy if you were dealing with that. Let's talk about those relationship losses. Now, I used the word marriage earlier, but when I say loss of relationship, I mean any meaningful long-term relationship that you've had. It could be a parent and a child falling out. It could be a family member that you grew up with that something happened and now you're not speaking. It can be a romantic relationship. But when you're on the brink of losing a very meaningful relationship in your life, what's a practical strategy that you could use to deal with that? Well, a practical strategy might be therapy. You may need someone to help you walk through the mourning and the grief that you're going to experience with the loss of that relationship. Um, Being in proximity to help others. Maybe there's an organization for people experiencing divorce over the age of 70, and you join that organization and help and talk to people and participate in activities, and that may give you not only a chance to express your feelings and be around people who understand and get it, maybe add some people to your support system, but also give you a sense of presence and helping others who may be going through something that's taking them to the brink as well. So, those are just some practical strategies for those examples that I've been using throughout this episode that could be very helpful as you work your way back from the brink. Overcoming these very deep challenges requires us to look for the meaning and maybe the purpose in the experience that you're having. The term making meaning is something I use in my clinical work a lot. And what that refers to is looking at a situation or a circumstance and figuring out, what is the meaning of this for me? I think as humans, a lot of times if something means something to us. For example, the loss of a long-term romantic relationship. I might say, well, the meaning for this for me is that that person wasn't meant for me. Then when I have a friend going through something similar, I may try to project that meaning onto them. But making meaning is something that's very individual and that we have to take time to do. So, in the examples that I've given, um, we could sum all those examples up as hardships: losing a relationship, financial ruin, losing a long term job, devastating diagnosis. Those are all we can group those all together as hardships. And so when we're looking at making meaning of things, we just simply want to understand what the experience means for us, and then more importantly, how do we grow or learn from it, and potentially even use our own circumstances to help others, as in the examples I just gave with the practical strategies. At the end of every one of those examples, I talked about helping others who may be also going through the same thing. Many people who speak, motivational speakers who have come back from the brink of something, uh, they have a way of conveying to others what that experience did for them and how it renewed them and how they're different going forward. You have to tell your story. You have to be able to articulate to others um, all of those important things: what it meant to you, what you learned from it, how you grew, and the importance of being able to tell your story. Why? Because other people are going through things too. And as I said in the previous episode, we American society has this, I don't know, perspective that somehow going through hard times or devastating things is just not desirable. But what we know is that it's a part of life. We know there are going to be times where things happen that we absolutely have no control over. And if we want people around us to learn and grow and be resilient as well, we need to be the light for them to say, hey, when you're on the brink of something devastating, this might be some things to think about. I went through something. It may not be the same as you, but it's still a hardship. And, there may be things I can offer or suggestions or strategies that may make a difference for you. So making sure that we are using our experiences to not only grow and change ourselves, but to help others do the same. And let's talk about mindsets. Like I just said, our American society is so, um, I don't know, like, oh, nothing can be negative, nothing can be bad. You have to be good. Everything always has to be good, which I think the back end of that is how people get stuck in negative mindsets. Because if society is telling me I can never be negative and everything has to be good and something bad happens to me, now I'm concerned, worried, stressed out, anxious because I shouldn't be in this position. I shouldn't be experiencing this. And we have to understand that in order to navigate these challenges, we have to find our gratitude and hope. We have to find the way forward, and we have to understand what's in our control and what's not, so that we can successfully navigate the hardship. We don't ignore that it's hard. We don't ignore that it's going to be a long road, perhaps in the case of a devastating diagnosis. We don't ignore the significance or the impact that this devastating thing will have on our lives. But we do understand that, even in spite of all of that, somehow, some way, this is going to be something that I can learn and grow from. This is going to be something, this is going to be an experience that I take something away from. and maybe even be able to share with others, and help them. And I think that's really important because that negative mindset can really play a role in, um, how we move through the situation that we're experiencing. It can play a role in how resilient we can be, how willing we are to try different things to move through that hardship. So again, we're going to grow and learn from it, but we have to be very aware of the potential to get stuck in the negative mindset that, oh my gosh, this terrible thing has happened to me and I don't have a way out, and I don't know how I'm going to recover from it. Coming back from the brink is rarely a straight line event. Rarely a straight line event. You're going to go here, you're going to go there, you're going to go up, you're going to go down, you're going to go diagonal and backwards, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be linear. There are going to be times where you make good progress going through this hardship, and other times where you wonder if you're ever going to get through the hardship. Be kind to yourself. Show yourself a lot of self-compassion as you work through every moment, and make sure you celebrate the wins, no matter how big or small, on the journey. On the journey, celebrate every win. The path back, or the way back from being on the brink, is a very individual experience. No two things are going to look alike. What works for one person may not work for someone else, and that's okay. That's okay. But as you go through the process, what you're going to walk away with is the strategies, the perspective of how to get through hardships in your life. Okay. So you can do it. It may seem very hard, but you absolutely can. So if you're facing a hardship right now that seems like you just are not going to make it, please know that you're not alone. Please know that you're not alone. And I'll just share this with you guys. Recently losing my mother, probably one of the hardest things that I've ever faced. Definitely feels insurmountable, but knowing that I too can get through this hardship. Remember that we all have a tremendous capacity for resilience. It's inside of each one of us. Lean on your support systems, take practical steps, allow yourself to feel emotion, and never give up hope. The journey may be difficult, but it's absolutely possible to emerge stronger on the end of the hardship than when you went into it. Again, I'm speaking, this topic is very personal for me. And I feel like, there's so many times that people are on the brink. We walk around every day and we walk past people, and, we don't really know what people are struggling with. So it's really, really important that we share our stories, that we tell our stories, that we say, hey, I've been through something really devastating, and, I'm getting there one day at a time. For me, losing my mom, I'm getting through the days one day at a time. Literally, it's a very devastating thing to lose someone that you care about. And many people have experienced loss: children, parents, people close to, spouses. Again, being a light for others who are also struggling is so important. Showing people that, as hard as this is, as devastating as this is, you know what? This is what I'm doing to navigate this hardship. And hey, guess what? This may give you some ideas for navigating your hardship. So keep pushing, keep working towards coming back from the brink. I'm rooting for you, I'm cheering for you, and I'm here for it all. And if you want to send your story, you want to send a story, email me, convocws@gmail.com. I'd love to share, to encourage others on how they can come back from the brink. Thank you all for stopping by the Convos with Anita Santiago podcast. You know, I appreciate and love each and every one of you that comes back for the next episode. Please like, share, subscribe to the podcast on all the social media channels. And again, email is convocws@gmail.com. Until we meet again, happy listening.